right, good afternoon, everybody. This is episode number 42 of the Sports Consiglieres podcast. I'm your host, Jim Whalen. Along with me is the Garden State #1 soccer fan, Jerry Calla. Jerry, how you doing?
Wow, what an intro.
Yeah, well, I got to build it up. So
There you
our
go.
next guest had 25 years, has 25 years of experience in the sports and entertainment business. He was the managing director for the Red Bulls. He was also the CEO of the reboot for the New York Cosmos. He's currently a consultant for the Hinchcliffe Stadium redevelopment through United Soccer League and New Jersey Pro Soccer. It's our pleasure to introduce Erik Stover. Erik, thank you very much, and congratulations on the project up in Paterson, New Jersey.
Thanks for having me, guys. Excited to talk about it.
So just talk, I guess you're the pride of Williamsport, Pennsylvania, and really soccer really wasn't kind of, usually for most people, for soccer, they either grew up with it, played it, but you kind of found the game of soccer late in life.
Yeah, I did. You mentioned Williamsport. That's home of Little League Baseball, and nobody played soccer in the 80s when I grew up. Excuse me. So when I finished college, I got an internship at the Meadowlands Sports Complex and worked my way up there. And I started to learn more and more about soccer. The legacy of the Cosmos was huge there. The stories that people would tell from back in the day. Obviously, the '94 World Cup had a huge impact, and a lot of stories from that. And so in managing Giant Stadium the last 5 years of my time there, we had just massive clubs from all over the world: Roma, Manchester United, national teams from all over the world. And I started to see the greatness of these athletes in the sport and understand it better. And I started to fall in love with it.
Jerry, you want to jump in here?
Erik,
He's
so
the
now that takes
Erik, he's the
you.
#1 Garden State fan. So you got he comes with a lot of information. So
well, I got to get his information at the end of this so I could sell some season tickets.
There you go. I'm in. Let's go.
He's not going to buy. Jerry's not going to buy him, but
I'll buy it. I'll buy it. I have to sit. I want to sit by one of the corner flags. That was my spot in Red Bull Arena. So Erik, again, great story. How you get into the game, and then you go from an intern to really being, as Michael Lewis said, very instrumental in getting the Red Bulls their own soccer-specific stadium in Harrison. Along with the work that you did for the Cosmos. And as much as I'm sure you would like to talk about those things, we really wanted to have you on the program today to really talk, because I think, us being North Jersey guys, Hinchcliffe Stadium resonates with a lot of people in North Jersey. There is a lot of history there. As you're well aware, you were, very instrumental in the restoration project, if you will. And now we'd like to hear, what you're up to and the intricacies of that project, along with bringing professional soccer, male and female, and the other exciting ventures that you have planned for Hinchcliffe Stadium.
Yeah, so Hinchcliffe Stadium is a National Historic Landmark. It's also only like 100 yards from the Great Falls in Paterson. It's really quite a dynamic area that I don't think a lot of people in North Jersey know a lot about, especially younger generations, because the stadium was condemned for about 25 years from the late 90s until just a few years ago. And really is in horrible condition. The joke I always make is it looked like a scene from The Walking Dead. The earth had kind of reclaimed the facility, and it took a lot of work. Some really special people, including my partner on the North Jersey Pro Soccer, Baye Adolfo Wilson, to save the stadium. And as I got involved in it, I learned more about it, and there's so many stories about it. Just like people in my family, my mother-in-law telling she grew up in Passaic and talking about how she performed in her high school band on that field. We did an event with Victor Cruz, and I was talking to his mother, and she said, yeah, we grew up here, and I had my high school graduation on that field. So that stadium for decades was so critical to the fabric of North Jersey, and then everybody in the community lost that. So to be able to bring that back is it just, I played a small part, a very tiny part of that, but to be part of that is one of the highlights of my career. And then again, the more you hear stories about it, you realize how important it was. Larry Doby was discovered on that field, second African American to play in Major League Baseball. Without that stadium and without that opportunity, without Larry Doby growing up, seeing the New York Black Yankees play there, he probably never has that chance. So for us, this project and the stadium in particular is very, very mission driven. Like we know we have an obligation to get the stadium up and running, have it be successful to bring in revenue into the community. But also to create opportunities for kids in and around the community that they don't have right now, whether it's a simple after school program for cricket or soccer or whatever, up to professional players getting a chance that they wouldn't have had otherwise. We take that responsibility very seriously, and it's something I'm looking forward to being very closely involved with.
Well, one thing I will say, Eric, I guess about 2 years ago, I took a drive up there with my family just to see the falls, and it's an undervalued area of the state. I mean, I just recognize a member from one of the Sopranos episode. I guess everything comes back to the Sopranos in New Jersey. And I guess 5 years ago, I had 3 kids at home looking to get out of the house. I went to go see the Lou Costello statue, another Sopranos thing. But if you,
Yeah.
the area is really, it's undervalued, but it's a great location. The stadium is in a great location, overlooks the city. There's good inroads there. You're going to probably have an appetite for soccer for the community. Patterson, you have support from the government leaders in the area for it, and I think it's a really good thing. It's a really nice story. Like at Hinchcliffe Stadium, I was in the process of them doing it over. It really is a great location. And unfortunately, I never really heard too much about the stadium until Jerry kind of asked me to reach out to you to come on the show, and I want to thank you. But like, it really has a really cachet about it. And then with soccer itself, it's going to be. I think it's going to be something really successful for you.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it, and because I've worked in this market with the soccer teams here for many, many years, I know that there's nothing else like it here. We have MetLife Stadium not far from us. We have Red Bull Arena, a great 25,000 seat stadium. But if you look across the New York metropolitan area, there's no 8 to 10,000 seat stadium that works perfectly for soccer, that's been redesigned and redeveloped with all the U.S. soccer sanctioning requirements in mind, to have an 8,000, 10,000 seat professional soccer match. So not only having the chance to bring professional women's team and a professional men's team there, but to do a lot of friendly matches and bring clubs and national teams in that MetLife Stadium maybe is too big, Red Bull Arena is too big, but the smaller stadium is perfect for clubs and national teams to come in, and those clubs and national teams are really important to different pockets of the community in North Jersey. It's among the most diverse areas in the United States, if not the most diverse. So to be able to bring a Polish club or the Colombian national team or an Ecuadorian club, just on and on and on, and to be able to bring that to the people that live not far from there, it's going to give us an opportunity that other USL teams don't have.
Well, it's funny you say that too, Eric, because I had somebody on the podcast, I guess last year, just when they announced about the World Cup, and I asked him. He was in the States, went back to, he was a Scottish gentleman, Ian Penderluth, but he I asked him like, what would be a good place to go to in Europe, and he said the smaller stadiums are better. Yeah, you can go to the bigger stadiums, but the smaller stadiums, you have a lot more passionate fans and everything else. So it's funny you say that the smaller stadiums attract. And I guess being in the industry for 20 some odd years, you probably saw that too.
But definitely, the top leagues, whether it's American football, the NFL, Premier League in England, and in the UK, it's become more corporate. It's become, the price per ticket is through the roof, and we all understand why that is, and we're not being critical of that, but to have a real community focused organization, which you see all over Europe in the second division, third division, that's where the passion lies. That's where fans still get that experience that we used to talk about 20, 30 years ago. So we're keeping that model in mind and building our club, and we really want to bring that authentic neighborhood environment to our teams that play there.
And Erik, just to as a fan, just to add a practical example to what you just said. I mean, I've been to Red Bull Arena for many, many, many games, and yet I would say the most exciting, passionate, fan-driven was games I attended at Hofstra, which, as you know, very small venue compared to other places. And actually, when the Cosmos, the reboot, played New York City on Fordham, on Fordham University against New York City for an Open Cup game. I mean, there was some juice and electricity in the stands. So, I totally understand, where you're, what you mean when you talk about the smaller venue. So right now, Hinchcliffe, they can hold 10,000.
It's right around 8,000.
8,000. Okay. So right now, just so we educate our viewers and myself, new bleachers, new seating.
Yeah, like I said, it's a National Historic Landmark, so it had to be refurbished to the specifications as close as possible to what it was built in, what was it, 1932, I think. So there's not individual seats. There's bleacher seats.
Bleacher seats. Okay.
We couldn't really change the concourse. That had to stay as is. Right now there are no luxury suites in the building, so to have some of those club experiences available for people, we'll add some temporary things that we can move in and out to provide that experience. But it looks and feels just like it did 90 years ago.
Okay. So and then the playing surface obviously is turf.
Yes, it's a synthetic turf, but understanding how the industry works, we put in just a green field. We also took the inner lane of the track out. So, and with some other novel ideas that we have, our field will be a bit wider than most infield pitches that are part of a running track. So typically that's about 70 yards wide. We'll probably be able to get it to 72 or so. By comparison, I think Red Bull Arena is 75. So, and Old Giant Stadium was 70. So, yeah, we've made, in knowing that professional soccer was our ultimate goal, we made some decisions that really, really helped what will be a great experience for our players and for people to attend and watch the match. Again, back to the turf, it's all green. So when we have a soccer game, it's going to be just soccer lines. If then we have a high school football game, we'll paint lines for high school football, then take them off. And then when we have another soccer game, it'll be a green field. So I think it's really important, especially in a league that is growing and developing, that we're putting on the best possible soccer experience for everybody involved.
And just to clarify, the league you're entering is the USL. Could you kind of explain the structure of that league?
Yes. So it's a great question because there's a lot of things happening in the USL right now. Let's start on the women's side. The women are halfway through their first season with the Super League. So USL Super League has first division status. It's the same status that the NWSL has. So given time, the teams in the USL Super League will have the chance to be roughly the same as Gotham, as Angel City, as all the other NWSL teams. So they have an opportunity to grow, and there's big upside, which is absolutely fantastic because this country has so many talented women players coming out of college, even younger girls, 16, 17, 18, that maybe don't want to go to college. There's so much talent in this country and just not enough jobs. So the Super League is going to create another avenue for them. For us, we're not sure exactly what level we're going to start in with our team, but we're expecting to start our women's team in the fall of 27. On the men's side, we'll be in League One, which is the third tier of soccer in the United States. The league above us is the championship, USL championship, and then MLS is first division. What USL announced recently is they're going to create a spin-off league that will apply for first division status, so a league above the championship and roughly the same as MLS. Now, MLS has been around for 30 years, and they've invested a lot of money in building out infrastructure, including stadiums. So it will take time for the USL top tier to grow. But what's absolutely essential for us is we're hoping that there'll be promotion or relegation within the three divisions on the men's side, and whatever divisions are happening on the women's side, that teams will be able to move up based on merit. And that is something that's very exciting that we don't have here, that I think is quite frankly a difference maker for the USL.
Now, again, one second, I'm
Go.
sorry, Jim. The first division status, what's the time frame for them seeking that?
For the USL on the men's side?
Correct.
Yeah, I think it's 2027.
Okay.
That's something that's happening at USL headquarters. I got enough to worry about with our teams in New Jersey, but yeah, I believe it's 2027.
Now with the first division, what is it right now? The MLS they don't have that in place, because I mean, I'm the casual fan. I'll pick up soccer, but they don't have that. Is there any, working in the MLS yourself, was there any restriction? Was there any talk about that? Any relegate in the 30-year history of it?
No, not that I've heard. I've not been aware of any discussions, whether when I was in MLS or the last 15 years, if they're ever considering promotion or relegation. And I think it's absolutely essential for the sport. I think intellectually you can understand why it's important. The numbers are out there. Something like somewhere between 80 and 90% of fans in the United States want it, even though we don't have it. And if you follow a club, if you have been in Europe or South America or anywhere else that has promotion or relegation, you understand that it makes it a very different game. When you're fighting relegation and everybody in the organization is aware that if you don't get 3 points on this weekend, it's going to hurt and hurt bad. It's just a different level. And when you're in a system that's a single entity and there's half the teams are 500 or below, and there's really no pressure on any given match, it totally impacts the final product. How people compete, what it actually means, what their opportunities come out of doing well in the cauldron of we have to win this game. We don't really have any of those really critical test points that promotion and relegation give. And then commercially, I think it's going to be a game changer for the USL. A promotion playoff match is going to be must-see TV. Networks are going to bid for it, and fans are going to love it. So I think that the USL is doing a smart thing. I think back when we were with the NASL and the Cosmos, and Rocco Camiso was fighting U.S. soccer and MLS. The vision to eventually get to promotion relegation. If we could finally get there, maybe all those fights were worth it.
So now, Erik, back, thanks for the insight with that. I mean, and I agree with you. There's a lot of people in the country that want it. Unfortunately, that's just not reported, obviously, for a lot of different reasons. But, getting back to your current project. So right now it's yourself, and you would say you have a co-owner. Is that?
Yeah, well, Baye Adolfo Wilson, who saved Hinchcliffe Stadium, he's our managing partner.
Okay.
We're in the process of raising capital. We're looking for investors to take up about 40% of the club. Those conversations are going very well, and we hope to close this round of investment in the next 3 to 4 months, if not sooner.
The investors, are they domestically, or are you getting like international interest?
Right now, it's all people. For the most part, it's people close to us.
Okay.
People that are love soccer, are either friends, colleagues, people in excuse me, interested in the sport and the growth of the business around the sport. But we're also looking for a European partner to invest. I think the player market in the United States continues to grow, and there are a lot of European clubs that have struggled with trying to figure out how to get players to Europe in a way that they've built on their development from age 15, 16, 17, 18. Right now, there's not a lot of professional opportunities for, at least on the men's side, for kids of that age to be in a professional contract, to train every day like a professional, to be tested every day like a professional, and to develop. We miss that development. It's very critical. It's, in my opinion, why we're not better on the national team is we just aren't good at that. And in fact, really bad at developing players in their late teenage years. And so people we know in Europe, clubs we know in Europe, are well aware of that fact. And they see the United States as a burgeoning market for player development. But the infrastructure isn't there right now. We're not giving these kids a chance to get into a professional contract and to develop at that age. And if you look at the history of soccer, if you are not on that professional path and developing at a rate that first division clubs are following you by the age of 18, then it's just too late. Now that may have some old school thinking in it. There's some people that believe that there should be greater effort put on players that develop later and given more of an opportunity. All of that is true, but the fact remains that most sporting directors in Europe will tell you that if you're not in a top position at age 18, it's going to be too late for you.
Now, again, you just mentioned sporting director. For our viewers, sporting director would be comparable to a general manager, so to speak, in other sports. What is your timeline in finding a sporting director for your club?
That's a very good question. Because on the men's side, we're looking at a League One team. Well, we will be a League One team. We're likely to hire a head coach that carries some of the sporting director responsibility. And we'll do that by summertime, no doubt. So within the next 2 or 3 months, we'll have somebody in that position. I've started to collect CVs. Some of our investors have collected CVs, and we'll start the interview process here in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, now the next thing as far as the club, with any type of contact with the public, if I'm not mistaken, you guys have another press conference that a few weeks from now.
Well, it's not booked yet. We need to finish our franchise agreement with the USL. Those contracts are going back and forth with comments from our side and the league side. So hopefully that goes quickly. Once that's locked in, then we'll have a press conference, and that will give us an opportunity to talk more about our plans. Some of the things that we've kept back and quiet will come out soon. A lot of that has to do with some of what we're talking about today, player development, what our longer term vision is. But we also need to take time in the community. So we're starting to put together listening sessions where we'll go out in Patterson and Clifton and Wayne and other communities and just talk soccer, just hear what people think we need to do for them to make this club a success. It's not just about putting a team on the field and selling tickets. We really need to connect in many layers of the community and be available and be a leader. So we're going to go out in the community and have conversations and hear what they have to say. We'll do that a few times over the next 6 months heading into next year.
The funding for Hinchcliffe Stadium, did that come from the city of Patterson, like for the renovation? Where did that come from?
I'm not really sure. I know that the state and city was involved in the renovation, but
Okay.
what those deals were and how all of it was funded, I'm not sure. What I do know is there's a senior housing immediately next to the stadium and a parking garage. So two pretty critical pieces of infrastructure that are now next to the stadium, and part of the long-term plan of Patterson, its overall restoration and comeback economically.
Now, as far as, I guess you'll be leasing the stadium, how's it going to work with your
Yes.
with
Yes.
your team?
Yeah. So we're technically a tenant. So we'll have a lease at the stadium, and with 2 soccer teams plus promoting other soccer events, we'll be bringing in 40 plus events a year. And hopefully over time, as we grow, the attendance will eventually get us to a regular sellout, which will have a pretty huge economic impact. We already had a couple friendlies at Hinchcliffe Stadium, 2 involving Barcelona from Ecuador. And the restaurants and the bodegas around the stadium, they were running out of food and water those first couple games because just thousands of people descended on the area. So it's already proof of concept that it has a good economic impact on the community.
What do you think the price, like a price point for ticket or ticket packages? You get
for
that
our
far?
tickets, it's going to be around $20 average ticket price. We'll do special ticket prices for kids in local school districts. We'll also have more premium experiences, whether it's part of a club seat in a restaurant or on pitch seating, things like that. But yeah, it'll be by far the most affordable sporting experience in the New York metropolitan area.
So now, as far as you said, sporting director / coach, sporting director duties by the summer, and then I'm going to assume he's getting right into it with identifying players.
Of course, and for us, we want to focus primarily on youth players in North Jersey. Now, we're not going to restrict ourselves, but there's loads of talent that just as I said before, it's just not getting a chance. When they hit those ages I was talking about before, the late teenage years, there's really only one professional pathway in New Jersey, and that's with Red Bull. Red Bull does a nice job with their youth system and being part of the multi-club structure with the teams in Leipzig and Salzburg and other places. But that's really it. If you're outside of that, you're having to pay to play. And I'm not here to bash pay to play. In fact, I have no problem with it. Where I see a problem is because really our only option to get any level of good training is pay to play. It's leaving thousands of kids on the sideline. My daughter is part of a pay to play academy. We just bought her uniform. It costs $500. That's a lot of money. And that's not tuition fees or anything else, travel or anything that goes along with it. So we know that kids in urban areas and their families quite simply can't afford it. In other sports in this country, and this is why pay to play exists, school districts, local government helps support basketball, American football, baseball. There's, the equipment's paid for. You're not paying for all that stuff as a parent. So it's subsidized. And if you're a great basketball player growing up in Patterson, you could play in high school, maybe go to a private school, then go to college, then make it to the NBA. That's a pathway that players have actually done from Patterson and made it to the NBA. It is much harder to do that on the soccer side of things. And when we create these teams and we create these jobs, we're going to give jobs to kids that never would have had the chance, that can't afford pay to play and aren't in the Red Bull system, and they have no other options other than something that's more recreational. And if you're ever going to make it at the highest level, recreation is not the way. You need to train 2-3 hours a day, 5 days a week, play a match on the weekend, compete for your paycheck and for your spot on the field every single day. And without that, we're just not developing players. So we hope that on the men's side, we show that path, and that we're successful at identifying players in North Jersey and in the surrounding areas, but also on the women's side too. There's a little less pressure on the women's side. I think you could still go to college, get a college degree, or go for a couple of years and then go professional. But at the very least, we will be creating jobs for American women to play professional soccer.
And then the whole, just to try to educate our viewers a little bit, the pay to play system doesn't exist in other countries. And I remember when Ibrahimovic came to the LA Galaxy, he was almost appalled that of the system that we had and how much it cost when he had to put his own child into a system. And here's a guy who was, international star, Sweden, played at you name any big club, he's been on their roster, and he was like, oh my God, I can't believe, what this costs. So it's, I want to say, like, in America, we Americanize that type of system for profit. And you can't, it's hard to criticize, or you don't want to criticize, but there's a big button there.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to criticize pay to play. Though all of those clubs started out of necessity, and the fees were originally just paying the what it costs to operate a league and teams. But people started to say, I could charge a little more. And then if I charge a little more and there's 1,000 kids, that actually starts to become a lot more. And that's how it evolved over the last few decades. Totally understand it. But the reality is we are not giving kids the same level of opportunity that have as much talent or more if they don't have the money. And it's not just inner city, it's also in poor rural areas. They're not getting the chance to. I've said for many, many, many years that if we put a dome over the New York metropolitan area and ran it all of the 20 million people that live here, and we ran it like a European country and gave all the soccer talent in this population the chance to develop as they do in Europe, we'd win the World Cup. We would, no, without question, develop 8, 10, 12 world-class players if we had the right system in place. We don't have that right system. We're not going to solve that, but we're going to do the best we can for the people in our community. And that I am certain will lead to some players making a career out of it. And hopefully over time that some of those kids also make it to the highest level, whether it's here in the United States or abroad.
Well, not only that, you're also providing other opportunities, coaching opportunities, training opportunities. There's a whole thing that goes along with just being.
Yeah, we want to do that with front office. We want to do that with how we run the video board in the stadium, with social media. We're going to use our platform to help everybody, not just soccer players. And we'll do the same with other sports. I mentioned earlier having a after-school cricket program that ultimately could lead to some kid developing and becoming a great cricket player. But for the most part, it's about getting kids off the street, giving them something they love to do, inspiration and aspiration to go further. And we'll do that in a lot of different disciplines. It's not going to be just soccer.
Now, I know, Eric, I'm probably getting ahead of myself here, but what would be what is your plan as far as trying to get your club on TV?
Well, automatically with the league, there are deals with League One and with the Super League, so we will be on TV. We're working on a lot of really exciting ideas, and if those things come together, there'll probably be a chance for us to do a local TV deal as well. We have to see how those things all evolve. But the USL has a good package right now for both the Super League and for League One and Championship. And I think it's everybody's focus to try to turn those deals into things that are making money for the clubs, and giving everybody that opportunity to have a little more revenue that you could reinvest back in the club and have some of the success we've been talking about.
And if I'm correct, that's ESPN Plus.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know all the.
Yeah, I think it's ESPN.
I think CBS or Paramount has some USL games, and I forget where the Super League is. But yeah, it's all new to me, and I'm learning.
Yeah.
And
Well,
trying not to get
that's something
overwhelmed.
like you talk about just local TV, because like for me, I'm the casual fan. I used to watch Red Bull games, but I'm not going to invest in Apple TV for Red Bull. I don't watch that many games, but if it's a Wednesday night or a Saturday night, I have nothing going on, I'll casually watch. So I mean, it's just like you'll probably bring more fans in than the pay prescription that the MLS has. So it's nice to hear at least you can watch soccer, in the comfort of your own home without the added price.
Yeah, and I think the demand for watching that will grow over time too, irregardless of what level we're on, League One or the Championship. If we have local players playing on our team, there's going to be an affinity that builds to our club because of the opportunity we're giving. Their family, their friends, their neighbors, that identity will become part of our club, and that ultimately will push television ratings up. And I feel really good about our plan and the vision that we have and how it fits in nicely with USL.
Eric, was there any significance with the Valentine's Day announcement?
No, actually, it was
your wife or something like that.
The timing. We were going to go the week prior. We had known that there was discussion for a long time about a first division league for the men's. We didn't know that it was going to be announced the Thursday before our announcement on Friday. We just had to get certain things in order. So the timing ended up being perfect for us. And I don't think I can overstate how important that is. For our club to have the potential to be promoted, it gives our players so much to hope for. It gives our community so much to hope for. It's not anything we're going to chase immediately in year one. We have to build our foundation. But to have that potential on both the men's and women's side is critical. And I don't think we can overstate what it's going to mean to the people of North Jersey.
Well, Eric, I don't want to take too much of your time. I got a couple other questions, and then I'll pass along to Jerry Hughes. He finishes out the episode. But like, if somebody's listening to this and is thinking about trying out, I mean, obviously, you probably where the announcement's going to be, and like, when do you think you'll start evaluating players?
Well, for players, internally, we will start identifying who we like. It's unlikely that we'll sign a lot of players this summer. If a player is already under contract somewhere and their contract expires at the end of the year, then we could sign them to a pre-contract starting in the summer. The FIFA rule is 6 months. So there may be one or two players that, maybe more veteran players that give the leadership in the locker room and on the field that you need when you have a lot of young players. Maybe some of those guys will sign to pre-contracts in the summer or early fall. We will definitely have tryouts. We will have our website really populated and up and running in the next 2 months. When we have announcements like that where we're going to have tryouts, that'll be on our website. And then again, as we discussed earlier, our overall plan will become a little more public once we get our franchise agreement signed and we have our press conference. So just keeping an eye on our website, that's where a lot of information will come.
Well, listen, I don't want to take too much more of the time, but please, I'm intrigued by the story. I know Jerry's definitely intrigued, but any press conferences, please reach out. We'd like to cover it for the show.
We'll definitely do that. Love to see you guys in
really
person.
Definitely, coming from my community, I grew up in Elizabeth. I had friends that played soccer, so and that was my indoctrination into the world of soccer, World Cup. Watching in Spanish, because the American channels didn't cover it. So I'm a fan. Like I said, I'm a casual fan. But like I said, I think the MLS lost me with the subscription package. So, but anyway, I'll pass along to Jerry, and please just keep us in the know as far as anything going on. So we like to cover it for the show and even be on site if that's a possibility. So.
Yeah, Eric, listen, like Jimmy said, thanks for joining us today. I'm very familiar, with your what I will say, very successful career. You're very instrumental in bringing a soccer-specific stadium to our area, Red Bull Arena. And I think what a lot of people unfortunately don't know, I'm going to table the Red Bulls for a moment, but I don't really think a lot of people are aware of the magic and the wonderful job you did with the Cosmos, giving us another option, if you will, getting in the NASL. And, those were some very, very exciting years. Too brief, as we all know, but those were very, very exciting years. I had no problem trucking out to Hofstra, sitting in that traffic to watch a lot of those games. But, I mean, again, listen, I don't have to tell you this. You have your work cut out for you. It's an A to Z project. But, again, your track record really speaks for itself. So if there's anybody in the industry that could make this successful, it's definitely you. So again, thank you for coming on. And like Jimmy said, we're very, very interested in what you have going on. And we would like to be, as announcements and as information is released to the public, really help you in passing that along and, having you back on.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the kind words. And those were special years. In fact, I spoke to Gio earlier today, Giovanni Savarese, our head coach. Earlier today, we made lifelong friends, and we had so many wonderful people as part of the organization. And it's good to see a lot of them out in other parts of the industry doing well. And yeah, I mean, they're some of the greatest moments of my career. Just looking at it from an outsider's point of view, the cup games that you alluded to earlier, I think if you're a soccer fan, it was a really special moment in time where Red Bull, NYCFC, and the Cosmos were all playing and competing. It really was unique. It gave soccer fans something to argue about and debate. We don't have enough of that in our soccer world in the United States. I kind of enjoyed people hating the Cosmos. We need more of that. We need more passion. You need Duke basketball, Notre Dame football,
Right.
Yankees baseball. You need those things. So, I appreciate the kind words. It was a great time in my career, and hopefully we will get a chance to bring that back.
Well, again, Erik, listen, it's been our pleasure. We could talk to you all day. We wish you nothing but success, nothing but good luck, and we'll definitely be in touch. And that's a wrap. Jimmy's going to close out the episode. Thanks again.
Yeah, this is episode number 42 with Erik Stover of the New Jersey Pro Soccer, Hinchcliffe Stadium. If you're in the area, check them out when the website's coming up. The new soccer venture. Good luck, Erik, and thank you for your time. And this episode was produced by Chop Sports Media. Hopefully we'll have Erik back on the show again, and look forward to being at the press conference when it happens. But good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for listening.
Take care now. Bye-bye.